Hello there. Welcome back to Stonehenge Apocalypse Part 2. And before we continue, please hit the like button. I know, nobody likes a beggar, but this is just the society we live in at this point, where random internet strangers ask you to give them intangible likes on an intangible platform. In fact, I would prefer it if you'd subscribe. Actually, I'm willing to go as far as to say that I would give my opinion on the sci-fi movie of my first subscriber's choice, within reason. And I say within reason because there are some movies that I'd prefer never to watch again, such as Interstellar. Because Interstellar was, and yeah, I'm going to say it, trash. I mean, Ad Astra was worse, but Interstellar, for all its hype, was utter garbage. So, okay, on to Stonehenge Apocalypse. Last time we left off with the general, the American general taking over in England, and Tanith discussing the events. In particular, the general was pointing out to Tanith that whatever happened at Stonehenge probably has something to do with the disaster in Mexico, where the Yucatan exploded with a pyramid volcano. I mean, and connecting these two things doesn't seem like a leap of logic anymore. Two major unexplained phenomena happened in as many days at the same time. It is just a fair assumption to consider that they're connected. And honestly, at this point, Tanith's adamant refusal to acknowledge this is just ludicrous. Although he also has a point when he says that regardless if there is a connection between Mexico and Stonehenge, they should probably not try and do something silly without understanding what they're up against. Something silly like trying to blow Stonehenge up with C4. Oh, never mind. Now, for some reason, right at this point, the radio calls it in. The general calls it in on the radio, which Castiel overhears, and this is very plot convenient. But I feel like we've already established that we're not here for the plot. I mean, we're here for the truth, for the real story. Okay, I hope you remember. Anyway, the knowledge that they are blowing up Stonehenge really upsets Castiel, and he demands to speak to Casey. And to nobody's surprise, Stonehenge has a force field that neutralizes the blast. It is according to Tanith, who just says it out loud without really consulting anything. It's a surface magnetic field. That is a magnetic field that counteracted the explosion caused by C4 stuck directly onto the fake stones. They were stuck onto the stones. I mean, do I really have to explain to you that that is not the way high-power plastic explosives work? Good. And if you didn't believe me that Casey's main purpose is to enable Castiel, there can be no more question. When the general demands they find someone who might have answers, she is the one to pipe up and say, well, there is maybe one. Now we cut to Apophis Light and his gang breaching what I assume is the Chamber of the Sun. In reality, what it is a really fake stone with some Sharpie hieroglyphs on them. Apophis Light says it is magnificent, but he is straight up lying. There is an altar in the room, and after scanning the side of the altar, not the top, they find the same symbol on it that Castiel recognized when he scanned the altar stone at Stonehenge. And you know what? At first I wasn't going to say anything about this, but this is just bothering me. Like, take a look. This is the altar stone they find when they come into the room. It's unadorned, but it's an altar stone. Then Apophis Light brushes the dirt off of the top of the stone. Then he says to Foreman that she should scan the stone. Like, he literally just indicates the top of the stone. And then she scans the side. She scans the side of the stone and then tells him there's something there on top of the stone, which is scanned from the side. Anyway, Apophis Light calls it a power source to energize the stone. The stone, which is the primordial hill. And guys, if Apophis Light doesn't have the energy source, then why is Stonehenge going off? Why did he put this into motion? It's not like Stonehenge would have gone off on its own. Besides, he knew about this chamber that needed a key. It's there on the prophecy. It's there on the parchment. Earlier, of course, the flying ankh started all of this, but now it is useless. And he suddenly needs a power source, and he doesn't know, a power source he didn't know existed, or he can't know it exists anymore, or even if it exists, can it be found, and can he put his hands on it before the 30-hour countdown expires? Because, yeah, we're against a clock, a very real fake clock. It's there's 30 hours left. This is the timeline. They have 30 hours, and then the world explodes, or at least goes up in primordial dust. And they suddenly realize they don't have the final component to stop this. A thing he calls the key. And this just kind of confuses it more. Like, did they know they needed the key? And no, the answer is no. He didn't know he needed a key. He didn't. Or, no. Was it, did he think he was just going to find it lying around there? It's a very ill-conceived plan. Anyway, back at Stonehenge, Casely gets her wish. And Castiel is put in front of a computer. And after some quick typing, he brings up a picture of the Antikythera mechanism. Now, the Antikythera mechanism is a real thing. It was discovered in 1900, and it's a piece of Old Greek, not Egyptian, gearworks. And it's pretty accurate at predicting astronomical positions. It also dates back. They could actually do some tests on this, and it dates back in real life to around 200 to 60 BC. It is old, but not that old archaeologically speaking, at least in the context of this movie. It's also just a bunch of gearworks. It's pretty sophisticated for its time, but it's just a bunch of gears. And it's also seen some better days. And it's at this point that David, you remember David of the red hair and the no title, the geophysicist. Well, he asked the question, where is the Antikythera mechanism? You know, the one in the Mediterranean exhibit on the screen. But, you know, obviously we're not going to read the fine print, so someone has to exposition it. And this brings me to the next question. How does Castiel know about this? How did he bring the Antikythera mechanism and this thing on the rock together? How does he know they belong together? Besides, is he an archaeologist? No, he's an astrophysicist, meaning he uses physics and mathematics to study planets, solar systems, stars, and the universe. It is by definition an outward-looking area of speciality, while archaeology, which has nothing to do with it, is an inward-looking area of speciality, and it looks to our own past. The only place where these two things collide is in the X-Files and in this movie, and the X-Files did it better. Anyway, as you can see if you wanted to read the fine print, and so anyone who wants to read the fine print, the Antikythera mechanism is in New York. And Castiel uses a computer-generated image to show an overlay of the two, conveniently telling us this is the electromagnetic key on the rock. And of course, after Castiel lay out all the pieces for those less smart than him, which seems to be everyone, only Casey is the good student who puts them all together and asks him if he means that the Antikythera mechanism is the key to shutting down Stonehenge. And then he turns to her and says in a nasty voice, yeah, I really hate this guy by now. I also really dislike Tanith, but that's not because the actor is cripplingly awful. It's his job to be the fly in the jam jar. We're supposed to dislike Tanith. We're supposed to root for Castiel, but you know what? If Casey decides to shoot him, I would testify at a trial. I would testify that Castiel needed some shooting. She was just doing the public a service. Anyway, we also learn from Castiel, in his condescending way, that Stonehenge and the Antikythera mechanism and all of it was created by our predecessors on this planet, tens, if not hundreds of thousands of years ago. And also, one, this is stupid, but two, where have I heard all of this before? Oh, did you say Stargate? Really, Stargate? And not just Stargate, but the entire mythos upon which Stargate Atlantis was built? Yeah. Anyway, apparently Tanith doesn't like what Castiel has to say, and after all of this, Castiel is taken away. But not before a little back and forth about the robot head on the moon again. Or actually, they kind of forgot about this for a while. And at this point, I also have to ask what Castiel means. What Castiel means with robot head. Does it mean it was something that looked like a human head that he could see was robotic in nature? Then it should have been a robotic head. And no, I'm not criticizing this just to be critical. The word robot is a pretty big catch-all for a lot of devices, and it is everything from C-3PO to a Roomba. And in fact, back in the old country, we call traffic lights robots, and wouldn't you know it, a traffic light fits with the definition of a robot, which is a mechanism which can perform a set of pre-programmed automated tasks. So, what exactly did Castiel find? The circuit board of a Roomba? The computer running the arm on the Ford assembly line? C-3PO's head? You know, it's a very empty, meaningless phrase, and no wonder he got kicked out of the academic community. After all, there are only two people who were able to mix pseudoscience, archaeology, and aliens successfully together. Milo Thatch and Daniel Jackson. No, and not even Fox Mulder got it right. Conveniently, right at this point, the countdown reaches 30 hours and Stonehenge goes off again. Exactly 10 hours since the last discharge. And why does Stonehenge discharge on a schedule predicated on what, according to this movie, is a measurement of time that would not be invented until millennia after our predecessors created all of these things? I mean, we haven't been using the hour system that long. Not really. Anyway, the mechanism will stop this, Castiel yells as he's taken away. And remember that short list of places he told Casey about earlier? Yeah, Indonesia gets it. Bye. 2 volcanoes, each big enough to destroy countries. And obviously they weren't big enough to be an extinction level event. In this movie, yeah, Earth has some major plot armor in this movie. At least the general has enough smarts to tell Tanith there is no more debate whether the disasters in Stonehenge are connected. And Tanith finally gets his head out of his rear, sort of, and announces that this calls for a global military response. And what exactly are all those airplanes and helicopters supposed to do? No, really, what? Once in the air, what will they be doing? Should all of them be trying to shoot down Stonehenge? You know, the henge with a shield? Wouldn't more scientists be a better call? I mean, the world is ending. And they have literally like 4 people discussing it. Maybe get some more professionals in to help. But that's just me. I mean, who am I to argue with the budget? And apparently it is at this point that Casey has finally had it with Tanith. She probably also wonders what the planes are needed for. And she takes the major out, the English major. The major is English, the general is American, just so we know. And she asks him, in her role as leading enabler of Castiel, she asks him and convinces him to take her and Castiel to New York. She says they will need a military escort, so I guess they will be flying in some kind of military vehicle, military airplane, like a jet or something. And they are on a schedule, a very tight countdown that they know about. So a flight from England to New York will take about 8 hours. That is without the added travel time from Stonehenge to whatever military base they will be using to fly from, or the time it will take after landing on some military base and getting into New York. So we're talking many hours, 9-10 hours maybe. And also, would a major have the authority to get all of this done? Probably not. In the meantime, it's time to up the ante and confuse us with lingo. The general, American, assures Tanith that the Joint Council, whomever they are, will order Directive 1015, which is to nuke Stonehenge. Now, I did not Google if there's some council and did not Google Order 1015. It is what it is. And I also don't understand what makes them think a nuke will have any more success than the C4, which had been directly stuck onto the fake-ass rocks. And would the Joint Council have the authority to nuke England? I mean, this is a 2010 movie, so I guess the Queen was still alive. Was she on the council that decided to nuke England? Was she? And at least Tanith is kind of trying to do some thinking at this point. And he and the computer lady hacks a plan to disrupt the EM field using a radio telescope. Now, honestly, this sounds like cow patties to me. When talking about radio telescopes, think SETI. Or for those of you too young to remember, I forgot what SETI was for. SETI was a bunch of really, really, really big satellite dishes meant to pick up signals from outer space. And by me, huge, I mean really huge. These things were massive. They would not be able to move one of these things with a helicopter. And even if they were able to pick one up, it needed the power supply. And I mean, the best I can say for the movie at this point is that, yeah, the telescopes were used or are used, well, SETI doesn't exist anymore, but radio telescopes are used to focus and amplify radio waves. So I guess the writers did at least Google something, or remember something. Regardless, this isn't good writing. Anyway, the Major drives Casey and Castiel to the airfield. I would have you know, it's just the three of them. There's no military escort at all. And it is here that the movie has one of its better moments. As the Major and Casey and Castiel drive to the airfield, she takes the time to unlock Castiel's cuffs, making this make the most sense in the movie. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that just happened one after the other, but at least you see Castiel cuffed, you see him being brought cuffed to the car, and then you have this little moment where he turns around and Casey uncuffs him. I mean, this is about as logical as this movie gets. And as I would also like to point out that they drive by some houses that look much more Canadian than English. Now, I don't know what all the houses of England and Canada look like, but I bet this is Canadian, not English. I feel English houses look older. And, well, at least I'll give them this. The Jeep is driving on the left-hand side of the road, which is correct. But the steering wheel is still on the left-hand side as well, which is very wrong. If you're driving on the left-hand side of the road, the steering wheel is on the right-hand side of the vehicle. And this is a good moment, a good metaphor for the entire movie. I mean, this entire movie has a feeling of so near, yet still so far. And anyway, we're also granted the privilege of being told by Castiel that he thinks the planet is being terraformed. And then we have the best line in this movie when Casey replies, "You're right, that's crazy." And you know what? Good for her. Yeah, Castiel's crazy. But this is his movie, so he's also correct, so whatever. Of note, Castiel's also making nice with her now. I mean, now that she'd granted him, now that she'd believed him over and over, and she'd sprung him from jail, and yeah, what a piece of work. I really hope he dies. Oh, and the plan that Tanith and the computer lady hatched didn't work. We're also not granted a view of how they transported the massive satellite dish. As I said, we are only shown this computer thing, and it tells us that the wavelengths went into nuclear territory, and isn't this what the Joint Council wanted? Aren't they about to nuclearly dispose or try to nuke Stonehenge? Now Stonehenge was doing it for them. Like, I get why the general is annoyed. Anyway, we're not granted a view of the countdown either at this point. We're only shown that Casey, Castiel, and the Major made it to New York. And I'm repeating myself, but this is really worth mentioning. These people are on a massive timeline, and this is how they're playing it. I mean, the writers are high on the fumes of idiocy right now, but I think these people made it to New York. But I don't think these people made it to New York before the next 10-hour mark. So why was this their best play? I mean, really, why was this the character's best play? With such an incredibly tight timeline, I don't know if you understand how tight 30 hours is to take international flights. With 30 hours, how is it in their best interest to fly all the way from England to America? I mean, and then fly back from America to England. Why are they doing a round trip? I mean, you don't need anyone to identify. You don't need Castiel to go and get the Antikythera mechanism. I mean, it is literally there. It's on a little pedestal. It has a little name tag and it has a website and everything. Even if nobody believes anyone, make the general make some American, some guy from America, from New York, this guy right there, make him take the Antikythera device, the one that's right there, put it in a bag, get on a plane in America, fly all the way to England, and save them the time of a round trip. I mean, and just to annoy me further, Castell takes out the milligauss meter to make sure the Antikythera mechanism is generating power. It's a key. I have many keys. There are keys abundant. The keys don't generate power, but apparently this one has to. And I don't know why he's taking the milligauss reader. Why does this have anything to do with anything? I mean, this is the MacGuffin. It is the MacGuffin. If it isn't, Apophis Light just destroyed the entire planet for no good reason. And besides, it looks like this. This isn't going to key anything. It looks really worse for wear. I mean, it's been in the sea, I think. I don't know. It looks terrible. But just to... how should I put this? Just to enforce Castiel's place in this movie as the main character, the Antikythera mechanism, which is giving off radiation or at least impulses, which nobody ever seemed to have noticed, decides to take this moment to glow and to make the entire museum shake. It is also at this exact moment that you hear gunshots being fired. Obviously, I would like to say this is a mystery, but obviously someone's here to steal the Antikythera mechanism. And you know what? Should I tell you who it could be? No, really. Who else but Apophis Light and his gang? Even first graders would be able to predict this. And yet, I have much more important questions, such as, how did Apophis Light know to come here? I mean, I know the answer, but it's a dumb answer. It's the kind of answer you give that makes everything else around it look dumber, as in, how dumb is this plan? And why did Apophis Light wait until Castiel arrives to take the Antikythera mechanism? It has a name tag. He could have taken it at any time. But you know what? The big reveal is still a minute away. And instead, we have to look as Castiel breaks the display glass with his elbow. He grabs the mechanism and runs outside with Casey. No, really, he has the device in hand, and he and Casey are free and clear of those wanting to steal the Antikythera mechanism. So why is he shoving Casey into a van, telling her to stay there and to stay low? And why is he running back inside to where there are people with guns with the mechanism in his hands? Why? And then why is he using this delicate MacGuffin that is supposed to save the entire planet as a bludgeon? And just to up the ante, an armed man goes outside and finds the van where Casey is hiding. But the way the scene is cut, kind of like the intro, Casey first looks at the door as if she heard something, and then the door opens and a man comes out. And of course, he is ready to shoot the heck out of her, except that the van is empty. Go, Casey! Look, Casey is hiding. And then she gets up and runs away, and the man sees her and he shoots at her and she screams, and She's dead, right? Yeah, dead. This is the end of Casey. She's been there. She's enabled Castiel. This is it, right? Right? Yeah. Anyway, the screen cuts to Castiel in the museum, and he's still holding the planet-saving MacGuffin in his hands. And the Major is dead. Rest in pieces. And then you get, hello, my friend. Yes, yes, indeed. Apophis Light is the bad guy. He had followed Castiel to the Antikythera mechanism. And look, this should be where I explain Apophis Light's plan to you on how he was supposed to get his hands on the mechanism, but there's actually still more to the stupidity before it makes an explanation. And I'll talk about how utterly and probably dumb this master plan is, but that will be the next video. In the meantime, Apophis Light just explains that he needs the mechanism to save himself and his followers at the primordial hill in Maine, the pyramid in Maine, that can save some people from the terraforming apocalypse. And no, you know what? As dumb as that isn't the dumbest part. Not by a long shot. And as I said, that'll be it for today. I'll upload the next part as soon as possible, and please comment, like, share. It's not good, but it is what it is. See you next time.